This has a battery in it already, but it's not even hooked up, so that's not a bad sign. I really don't anticipate getting this started to be too big of a deal. I've got a couple of little tech tips for you, I guess, along the way here. Now, if you read here, this can is supposed to be 110 octane race gas. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's some race gas, but I think it's a mix that I was using in my dirt bike. So there you go. Sharpie on a gas can, great idea, but you have to actually put that in there or else it's pointless. So this truck over the years has had a fair amount done to it. This is the third engine. It is still a 305 to the best of my knowledge. This engine was legitimately free. The intake manifold I had off of something else. The headers I don't remember. So it's, I do remember I have a, I guess what would be considered kind of an RV type cam in it. I just dropped my little gas bottle there, so I gotta find that. Actually, this is going to be one of our tips here. We've got a, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I've got a hole punched in this with a screwdriver. It's just a standard water bottle. On these Edelbrock carburetors, it's actually really easy to pre-fuel them. You've got a hole on each side here that's a vent to the float bowl. What you'll do is you'll just kind of dump gas into that until you start to see just a touch pour out of the primary boosters, or the primary venturis. It's probably a little bit overfull at that point, but it is a cold start, so that won't be that big of a deal. So in the meantime, I'm going to hook this battery up, get ready to do that, and I'll just set the camera off to the side while I'm filming, or while I'm filling up the carburetor, so you can kind of see what's going on with that. The other thing that's not a terrible idea to do is to work the throttle a couple of times while watching for the actual boosters to squirt. And those ones are right there on the first hit. So now we'll go ahead and change the battery out. That battery has a date of 2013 on it. Oh look, I actually put a battery tray in here at one point. So, if you'll remember, I said I thought there was some weird electrical issues. There's a ground wire that's just kind of flopping, so that's probably one of them. And actually, you've got to watch for this too. This is a blue wire. If I was just going to grab one of these, I would think that probably the color wire would be power. And in this case, it's not. We've got a blue wire running to the alternator bracket, so it is going to be ground. We'll hook that up second. So our power cable on this truck runs down to the starter. These GM side posts should be 5/16. Good, the ratchet's broke. There we go. Now you're going into lead with those, so you don't need to crank them down. And I'm really hoping that's all this takes. We'll see. I should be able to just turn the key and this should fire off, I think. We've got the carburetor full. I know I've changed the gas in the tank recent enough that it should still fire. It might not cold start very well, but it should still run. So we'll go back inside, make sure that things like your wing nut and the air cleaner are in a spot where they're not going to fall down and get hit. And yes, as we go through this truck, you'll realize there are some things that I did not do very nicely on it. Okay. It does have a little sun protect though, so fan works. Gauges don't work. And actually the gauges started to work. So that was actually really easy. The next step is going to be, does it move? Now there are a couple of things that I kind of skipped there that you're going to want to do on any vehicle before you try to start it. And that is to do a real quick fluid check. So before we get this warmed up, that was legitimately the first start this has had, and I don't really remember how long. The reason it kicked off so well is because we dumped the gas down the carburetor. And honestly, we probably didn't run it long enough to make sure it's actually picking up off the fuel tank, but I think it probably is. So, now without actually getting too worried about what your level's at, because I've already started it, pull the dipstick. It's got some nice black oil on it, but it has oil, so that's fine. Pull your trans dipstick. Again, same deal. It's got fluid on it. Trans fluid actually gets a lot higher as they set. And the last one, probably not a bad idea to check your coolant level. And I don't see any. So, oh yeah, if you look down there, you can see the coolant is about halfway up the radiator. I also see that this has a real cheesy plastic piece on it. Yeah, so we'll have to deal with that. But there is enough coolant in it, I don't feel too bad about running it a little bit. And like I said, the next step here is to see if it moves. So I'm going to pop the the air cleaner back on. Could really use a camera person on this deal, but that's not happening anytime soon. Alright, so we'll get back in there. I see that the tires are turned. They're also encased in ice, so it's probably not going to go anywhere. See if it fires right back up that easy. And it did. I don't know what happened to these gauges. These did not look like this when it parked here. So my guess is it's just getting the right kind of sunlight that really caused those to deteriorate rapidly. So the next thing we're going to do, and actually that must be gear right there. It caught gear quick too. You can see the tack and you can hear it. See, there's idle, or there's neutral at idle, about 1,000 RPM. There's reverse, it just dropped a couple hundred. Yep, not there yet. So the transmission seems to have gear. Transmission has gear, and the rear tires are not moving, but you can see the whole body of the truck flex up and down as it goes. So also, you didn't see that, but as we were sitting here waiting, I stepped on the brakes. The brakes feel phenomenal. Exhaust is nice and quiet. It's got a tick. I see I've got some header collector gaskets in here, so maybe that was an issue before I put it away. And otherwise, this is just a rough old truck. So I'm gonna end this video right now. The next step is gonna be to try to get it out of this ice hole, see if the tires are locked up or if it'll spin once we get it out. Alright, so my plan was to use a floor jack under the rear axle to get the rear end of this up in the air to see if I could get the tires to spin, to determine if they're just frozen with ice or if the brakes are locked up or the pinion's locked up or something and the axle is broken. But there's a little bit of an issue with that. And that is, I'm not sure if you can actually see it or not, but I started to dig under there and there's essentially ice right up to the pinion. So I can either get some salt, which I'm not going to do because I hate salt, and that's about it. So I could salt it, I could get some equipment here, try to lift this back up, but I think I'm going to end up breaking something if I do that. So for the time being, I'm just going to, it's springtime, it's been sitting here for, if I believe the date on the battery, 5 to 7 years. I think it can wait another couple weeks, I guess.